Good morning to everybody, but if you are listening to this in the afternoon, I want to greet you good afternoon. Okay, so this lecture video was recorded for the purpose of replacing our missed sessions for the past few days because of some interruptions caused by I had no internet connection last Thursday, and we have to attend a webinar organized by the school last Friday. That was yesterday, so I wasn't able to meet you and do our synchronous sessions. But as I have mentioned in our Facebook page, I am recording this in lieu of our missed sessions because we don't want to experience backlogs in our sessions because based on our schedule, last week of May, dapat ma-administer na yung inyong final exam so that we could pass your grades as early as June. Okay? So this is done so that we could cope up with our schedule in our class. Okay. So at this point, we shall be discussing how to make or how to construct objective types of tests. In this slide that you are looking at now, listed here are some examples of objective type tests that teachers can design in measuring the learning of their students. So one of these is multiple choice. Then we have short answer items and completion type, alternate choice or binary type. This is what we usually call as true or false items. Then we have matching type, essay items, and problem solving exams. Now in the next in the next videos that I will be uploading later on, we shall be focusing our attention on the short answer items and completion type items. But in this video, we shall be discussing the rules that teachers need to know and teachers need to have in mind whenever they are constructing multiple choice type of tests. Okay, so before we proceed, I just want to review everybody of what is the difference between objective type test and subjective type test. Well, we have discussed this previously already, but just for a recap, when you talk about objective type tests, these kinds of tests are not affected by the judgment of the person evaluating it, okay, or administering the test, because there are correct answers, there are key answers to the different items or to the different questions, and that is unchangeable. Okay, that's unchangeable. So there is no way that the evaluator will be or the rating of the students will be affected by the judgment or by the opinion of the evaluator. Okay, as far as objective type tests are concerned. But with regard subjective type test, ito yung mga uri ng pagsusulit kung saan may epekto ang pananaw, opinion ng evaluator dun sa magiging score ng mga estudyante. For example, performance-based activities like in folk dance, for example, and nagpasayaw ka sa kanila, nakadepende ang magiging resulta o magiging performance nyo, ang evaluation ng performance nyo. Depende kung paano ito mineasure ng inyong teacher o ng mga evaluators or ng mga judges. So yun ang isa sa mga halimbawa ng mga subjective type test. Samantalang sa objective type test, basta may correct answer dyan, may key answers dyan, yun yung magiging basehan kung tama ba o mali yung sagot mo. Okay, so it's always there, and whoever checks it, you will have the same result because you have key answers to base on the performance in the objective type test. So sa ngayong araw, in this video, we shall be focusing our attention on constructing multiple choice type of test. You should know this, okay? You should know this because most teachers would employ or would implement multiple choice type of tests in their assessment, especially in long examinations, summative examinations, or periodic examinations. Okay, so let's talk about first the anatomy of a multiple choice item. Okay, it's not correct to say that it's a multiple choice question. No, because not at all times that in a multiple choice type of test we are constructing a sentence in question form or in interrogative form. Because sometimes we are expressing our item in a declarative form. Okay, so hindi tama yung term natin na multiple choice question, but it's more appropriate to use multiple choice item. Okay, so the multiple choice item has three main parts. Now, what are these? We call these as the stem. Okay, we call this part as the stem. We always refer to this as the question or the statement or the phrase, that is what we call the stem in general. Okay? Yung mga pinagpipilian naman o yung tamang sagot, yun yung tinatawag nating key answer. Okay? At yung mga pinagpipilian, we call that as distractor. Ito yung mga hindi tamang sagot. They were called distractor because they were there, okay? They are there to distract the test taker in choosing the correct answer. Okay? In other words, people, ang tamang sagot ay tinatawag nating key answer at yung mga hindi tamang sagot ay tinatawag naman nating distractors. Okay? So in this case, okay, the psychologists who formulated the theory of classical conditioning, that is what we call the STEM, and then the correct answer, the key answer, there is of course Ivan Pavlov, and we can see here some distractors, B.F. Skinner, Eric Erickson, and Jean Piaget. Okay? So let's now talk about 10 desired qualities in making multiple choice test items. Now some of the statements here are not located or cannot be found in your module, but they express the same thought. Okay, they express the same thought. They express the same rules or stuff that we have to follow whenever we construct a multiple choice item. Okay, so let's talk about this. Baka sabihin nyo, madali lang naman gumawa ng multiple choice. Kailangan mo lang ng tanong, tapos meron kang options. Pero may mga rules kasi, may mga procedures tayong fina-follow para makita natin kung tama ba yung pagkagawa natin ng ating multiple choice item. Well, why are we doing this once again? Because we want to establish validity and reliability of our test items. Okay, so if we have not followed these rules in constructing multiple choice item, then the score of the students may be affected. Okay, or the validity of your test items may be affected because you have not followed the rules in making multiple choice items. So number one, you have to ask yourself, does this item measure the specified skill? In other words, your test item should be relevant or should always be related to your objective. Okay? Kaya tayo gumagawa ng table of specifications para alam natin kung ano yung mga itinatanong natin. So that's the first question that we have to ask ourselves. Does the item match the specified skill or match your objective? So that's the beauty of having a POS, because you could counter check whether or not this item is actually meeting this objective that you have set in your table of specifications. Okay, so for example, can you use multiple choice tests in measuring creative writing? Of course not. How can you measure creative writing or maybe oral communication when you're administering a multiple choice test? So you have to look at the appropriateness of multiple choice test on your objective. Okay, on your objective. In many cases, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say that multiple choice tests are usually used for cognitive objectives. Okay, for cognitive objectives. Another thought is that evaluation should always match as closely as possible the actual activity that you are teaching. So, ito yung tinatawag natin that there is continuity in your teaching. Okay, so if you are administering quizzes in your daily lessons to your class, your students will expect that the items that you will be administering or you will be including in the multiple choice item should be similar with the items that you're asking them in their daily lessons. We call that continuity. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, it's always looking at if the format that you are choosing, okay, if your the format of the test that you have selected, okay, match or is appropriate to your target skill, okay, to your target objective. Okay, so the second is, does the STEM clearly present a problem to be addressed? Now, in many cases, teachers um feel or experience, okay, failure in expressing what they want to ask their students or what they want to elicit from their students, because number one, they have low skill in writing. Okay, they do not have that excellent or favorable, okay, skill in writing sentences or paragraphs. Grammar is also one factor that affects teachers' um, fulfillment of this problem here, or this question here. And then, of course, yun nga, yung sentence structure, tsaka yung pag-construct nila, organization ng ideas nila. That is why I want to emphasize to everybody that if you decide really to become a teacher, there is no way that you could survive the teaching profession if you don't know how to express yourself in the language. Okay, let it be English or Filipino. It is important that you have the excellent ability, or not really excellent, but yung tama, okay? Ka maayos na abilidad para ma-express yung sarili mo sa lengguwahe. Okay? Gamit ang English o pwede na naman ang Tagalog or Filipino. But if your subject is taught in English, you have to make sure that you can express yourself really well. So, it could happen na hindi naman alam ng bata kung anong sagot dun sa tinatanong mo, pero dahil hindi maayos yung pagkakagawa mo ng tanong, naapektuhan yung pag-identify ng bata doon sa tamang sagot. So, it is always important that we have to review our test items if they present the problem that you really want to be addressed. Okay? STEM asks a question that has a definite answer. That is always the case. Okay? For example, this one. This is an item. Okay, Genoa spends most of her waking hours checking the doors and windows and taking showers in is displaying A. Generalized anxiety, B. Obsessive compulsive disorder, C. Phobic disorder, or D. Autistic behavior. Now, does this item presents clearly the problem? Okay, does this item presents the problem clearly? Okay, I would like to read it again. No? Janoa spends most of her waking hours checking the doors and windows and taking showers. Is displaying. There's an error here. Okay, there's an error here. I would jump to the correct statement. Okay, to the correct improve the multiple choice item here. And if you will look at it, look at this. Identify the disorder displayed by the subject below. Diba? So, klinaro mo that you want your students to identify the disorder and not just looking at the situation. So, you have cleared to them that you are looking for a type of disorder. Okay? And by basing on the situation that was stated after this statement. Okay? And if we go back, yun nga kasi yung unang tanong, Genoa spends most of her waking hours checking the doors and windows and taking showers. Is displaying what? What are you trying to ask me? Okay? Is displaying what? I don't know what is that. Okay, there could be a lot of answers to this STEM. Okay, pero you have cleared it out in the improved version. So you want them to identify the disorder. Okay, the disorder. So that is what we are trying to point out in number 2 quality of multiple choice items. Okay, so you have to clearly state the problem in your STEM. Okay, number 3, are all options parallel in type of content? Ito ang isa sa mga tanong na madalas hindi binabato ng mga guro sa sarili nila. Okay, so tandaan natin na pag tayo ay namimili ng distractors o sinusulat natin yung options natin, kailangan na pare-parehas sila or parallel in type of content. Okay? And when we do that, we are making our distractors plausible. Okay? We are making our distractors plausible. When we talk about plausibility or plausible distractors, ito yung mga distractors na nakakahikayat na piliin ng learner. Okay? Ng estudyante mo. Ayaw naman natin na napakadali lang ng tanong. Maaaring mahirap yung STEM. Pero dahil yung options mo, ma-figure out ng bata kung anong tamang sagot, ibig sabihin nun, hindi plausible yung distractors mo. Okay? Halimbawa, tinatanong mo, ano ang pambansang bulaklak ng Pilipinas? Okay, that is your question. And then, your options are A, Sampaguita, B, Calabao, C, Jose Rizal, D, Anahaw. O, ano ang tamang sagot doon? Isa lang naman ang bulaklak sa mga choices na ibinigay mo sa mga bata. So, obvious na yung tamang sagot. Okay? So, yun yung tinatawag nating unplausible distractors. Okay? Ibig sabihin, hindi ito effective na distractors para sa iyong mga estudyante because they could easily figure out the correct answer even if without reading the the stem of the question. They could figure out the correct answer from the options, and that's a no-no in test construction. Understand that, okay? Take that in mind. That's a no-no in test construction. Okay, you should always look at the options and see to it that the options are parallel in type of content. So if you're asking for a flower, then all options should be flowers. If you're asking for an animal, then all options should be animals. Okay. For example, this one. The basic unit of mass is the A gram, B liter, C meter, D cylinder. So are they parallel in content? No. Okay, because gram is a unit of weight, or mass, I should say. Liter is a unit of volume. Meter is a unit of distance. Cylinder is not a unit of measure, but it is a laboratory apparatus. Okay, so this example is showing you, is demonstrating to you unplausible distractor. So what can we do here? If we're looking for a unit of mass, then everything in the option should be a unit of mass. So an improved version of that is this one. Oh, wala palang improved version, but we could like the basic unit of mass is a gram, B kilogram, C what else? Milligram, or D ton. So those are the same, okay, in terms of the content. They are all unit of mass. Another example is this one. Okay, the following are some of the items which are considered easy, poor, and where some of the options are not possible. For example, while performing the experiment, you forgot the time required, so you kept heating the liquid for 20 minutes instead of only 5. What would you do? A. Repeat the experiment. B. Go ahead. Anyway, it's only 15 minutes. C. Ask the teacher to change the time to heating to 20 minutes. And D. Record that you have heated it only for 5 minutes. So you see, B, C, and D are, kung may common sense ka, hindi mo gagawin yan, di ba? So, ang tamang sagot ay A, di ba? So, B, C, and D are not plausible distractors because they are in no way can be chosen by your students. So, we have to look at that, okay? We have to look at the content. So, that's one thing that teachers many times fail to do when they're constructing their test items in a multiple choice question. So, make sure that the options are plausible. All right, so enough of this number three. Let's talk about number four. Okay, would the options avoid repetitive words? So ito naman, nakikita rin natin tong error na to sa mga teachers, sa mga gumagawa ng test questions or test items. But this is just a minor error. But this addresses yung practicability and efficiency ng test items natin. Okay, wag tayong paulit-ulit ng sinasabi. Kasi baka mawala yung focus ng mga bata dun sa sinasabi mo. Kasi paulit-ulit mong sinasabi dun sa item. Okay, halimbawa, tulad nito. That swimming pool which needs cleaning most often is that swimming pool. O, diba? Napakagulo. Ano na yung sinasabi ni sir? Halimbawa, that swimming pool which needs cleaning most often is that swimming pool, letter A, which is filled with water from a steam. B, which is filled with the water from a well. C, which is filled with water from the ocean. Or D, which is filled with water collected from rainfall. So, ang daming paulit-ulit na salita na sinasabi doon sa item natin. So, we have to refrain from doing that. So, what can we do from this statement? What can we do from this item? Well, the stem needs improvement and the options also need improvement. For example, that swimming pool which needs cleaning most often is that swimming pool. So, inulit mo yung swimming pool. Anong pwede natin gawin dito? This is the improved version. Okay? The swimming pool that will need the most cleaning is the one that filled with water from a blank. A. Ocean, B. Rainfall, C. Stream, D. Well. O, di ba? Mas madaling maintindihan at hindi pa ulit-ulit yung mga sinasabi mong salita. So, instead of using this item or constructing your item in this way, make sure that it's clear by avoiding repetitive words. Okay? So, this one. The swimming pool that will need the most cleaning is one filled with water from A or an. Okay? Mamaya, bakit kaya naglalagay ng a or slash an? Bakit hindi pwedeng a lang? Bakit hindi pwedeng an lang? Let's talk about that later. But this one, okay, tinanggal natin yung which is filled kasi pare-parehas lang naman. So, ilagay na natin siya doon sa stem. Okay? The fifth question, this one also. How is the brain protected from injury? It is enclosed with water. It is enclosed with grease. So, palitan mo na yung it is enclosed. Lagay mo na lang sa stem. Okay? Enough of these. Let's talk about number 5. Okay? is extraneous content excluded from the STEM. So pag sinabi natin extraneous content, ito yung hindi naman kailangan o hindi naman or out of tangent, okay? In the language, out of tangent yung mga statements na nilalagay mo dun sa item. So it to the point na napapahaba mo yung stem mo, pero yung ibang statements doon ay hindi naman talaga kailangan. So if you could eliminate these parts, the students could still get the correct answer. Okay? So yun yung tinatawag nating extraneous content. So for example, napakahaba, right? When the number of bacteria and other decomposers in an aquatic environment increases, these microorganisms consume most of the oxygen available in that aquatic environment. On the other hand, oxygen-dependent organisms such as fish die because of suffocation due to the depletion of their oxygen supply. This water-related problem is known as, diba? So, ang dami mong sinasabi. So, you could cut some parts of these, and then still the students could get the correct answer. Okay, so then perversion is you could alisin mo na yung on the other hand, because when the number of bacteria and other decomposers in an aquatic environment increases, these microorganisms consume most of the oxygen. So yun na. So this water-related problem is known as, so the answer here is eutrophication. Okay, so letter B is the correct answer. Number 6, ito, ulitin ko, is the grammar in each option consistent with the stem? Okay? So, the grammar that you have used, or the verbs that you have used in this stem, could be used by your students as a clue, okay, in getting the correct answer. And we don't want that to happen because that will decrease the validity of our items, okay? So, options that do not directly link to the stem will automatically be discriminated by the test taker. And that's, of course, true. Okay? So, for example, using a, and other verbs, yun yung dapat tayong careful. So, halimbawa ito. O, diba? These 4 pictures show heat and light, heating and sound, light and sound, sounds and colorful. So, magkakaiba yung options mo. Halimbawa, heat and light, tapos heating and sound. Heating is a verb. So you have to make it, if you're using a noun, then use nouns all throughout, okay? This one is a better version of the previous item. These 4 pictures show heat and light and sound, light and sound, sound and color. So, yun, isa din yan. Okay? Another example, yung kanina, yung an, okay? So, halimbawa, pag automatic, ang kasunod nun, yung options na nagsisimula sa letter A, diba? Sa consonant, diba? A table, a paper, diba? So, mamimili sila dun sa options na consonant ang unang letter. Kasi kung an yun, dapat vowel yung unang letter ng salita. So, that could actually give them a clue kung ano ang tamang sagot. And again, we refrain from doing that. Okay? We don't want that to happen because, of course, nakuha nila yung sagot, hindi sa alam nila, pero dahil nagbigay ka ng clue sa kanila. So, how could you tell that your students are really learning if you're doing that? So, yun yung kahalagahan na alam natin yung grammar, okay? Yung consideration natin about verbs in our STEM, okay? The 7th question we have to ask ourselves is, does the item exclude options equivalent to all of the above and none of the above? Well, many questions or many teachers would really include or would think of having option like all of the above and none of the above. I mean, that's not bad, okay? That's not a bad practice. But in some books, they recommend to avoid using none of the above and all of the above. Because at some point, they could actually provide or can cause confusion to our students. Okay? Halimbawa, kung all of the above ang tanong, ang sagot, di kung namili ako ng isa bukod dun sa all of the above, di tama pa rin yung sagot ko. Right? Diba? Pero we go back again to the instructions in our test. Sabi natin, choose the best answer. So, yun yung magiging justification natin. Choose the best answer. Your answer was not the best. Yes, you are right that it is correct, but it's not the best answer. Okay? But hanggat maaari, iwasan natin yung paggamit ng all of the above at saka none of the above. Okay? So, for example, This one, oh, nagbasa ka ng story. Ang tanong mo, who was dancing in this story? A. Jane was dancing. B. Mary was dancing. C. Jill was dancing. D. All of the ladies were dancing. So, kung ang tamang sagot ay D, edi tama din yung A, B, C. So, yung nga sinasabi ko kanina, that the correct answers could overlap. Okay? Could overlap. Okay. Another one is the rock cycle begins with A, igneous rock, B, sedimentary rock, C, metamorphic rock, D, any of the types of rock, and E, none of the above. Any type of the rock could be, we could start with the rock cycle because it's a cycle. Okay, it's a cycle. So, kung A, B, C ang sagot ko, di tama din siya. Okay, so yun sinasabi natin about number 7 na hanggat maaari, huwag tayong gumamit ng all of the above at saka none of the above. Okay? 8. Unless another order is more logical, our options arrange alphabetically. The teachers miss this, okay? It is recommended if we are using words as our options in our multiple choice item, dapat i-arrange natin yung options natin from letter A to Z or Z to A. So alphabetically, okay? Alphabetically. So, pwedeng baliktad, pwedeng A to Z, or pwedeng Z to A, so long as they are arranged alphabetically. Okay? So, halimbawa, the father of modern chemistry is Antoine Lavoisier, Albert Einstein, Andre Ampere, Robert Brown. So, the correct answer here is Antoine Lavoisier, okay, or Lavoisier. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's French. Okay? So, in the improved version here on the right, they were not arranged alphabetically by name but by surname. Okay, so Ampere, Brown, Einstein, then Lavoisier. Okay? Number naman, okay, pag number naman, from highest to lowest or from lowest to highest. Okay? Minsan kasi, tendency ng teachers nilalagay nila ang tamang sagot sa unahan o kaya sa hulihan. So, para ma-avoid natin yan, to make it random, okay, i-arrange natin from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. Date naman, chronological. So from earliest to latest or from latest to earliest. Alright. So, yun yung tignan natin. Alright? Ano naman, pagka statements, okay? Halimbawa, sentences yung options natin. From shortest sentence to longest sentence or from longest sentence to shortest sentence. So, ganun yung ating pagkaka-arrange. Okay? So, katulad niyan, ito. Diba? So, ganyan siya. So, from shortest to longest or pwede ring longest to shortest. Number 9. Are the words not, except, true, false, and best highlighted? So, maraming mga estudyante nagkakamali sa item, hindi dahil hindi nila alam, pero hindi nila nabasa ng tama yung stem mo. Okay, halimbawa, nagtanong ka ng which of the following is not. They read it as if which of the following is blah blah blah. So they misread not or they did not yung salitang not nawala sa isip nila, nawala sa consciousness nila. So, ang ginagawa most of the time ng mga teachers, dapat hina-highlight natin o binobold natin yung words like not, except, true, false, or best, okay, in our test item, in our STEM. So, halimbawa, ito, which of the following is not a characteristic of the hypnotic stage? So, we want to highlight that by underlining it or by maybe putting it in capital letters or bolding it. Okay, so in any way that we could highlight that could actually help our students identify the correct answer. Okay. Okay. For example, number 9, which of the following statements is false? So what can you do here? To improve this, well, we can highlight the word false. Okay. And last but not the least is it's not internal of the item already, the multiple choice item, but this is on how we encode our multiple choice test. Okay, wag nating pag-dikit-dikitin. For example, this one, number 1, number 2, number 3. Mas magandang tignan yan pagka may space in between each item. Okay, may space in between each item. Okay? So by the way, how many options can we provide in our or can we have in our multiple choice item? In elementary grades, it is traditionally three options. Okay, yung three options natin. In high school, four options. In college, what is recommended and what is observed in many universities, not only in the Philippines but abroad, five options yan. Pero, okay na rin yung four. At yun yung pinapractice talaga. Pero, kung gusto mo talagang makita, sa college level ha, kung alam ba ng bata or alam nila ang tamang sagot, we practice or in entrance examinations, five options talaga ang usual practice. Now, how do we arrange this? Okay, sabi ko nga alphabetically yung options, kung salita, kung numbers naman from highest to lowest or lowest to highest, kung passage naman or sentences from longest sentence to shortest sentence, or from shortest sentence to longest sentence. Now, in grade levels, in elementary levels, hindi advisable yung ganitong arrangement ng options mo, yung pagkaka-encode na A, B, tapos C, D sa kabila para makatipid ka ng papel. Dahil the tendency is elementary pupils tend to read vertically. Okay, from top to bottom. Okay? So dire-diretso ang kanilang reading. Dapat A, B, C, D. Hindi A, B, C, D. Maaari mo itong i-practice sa high school pero that's a no-no in elementary grades. Okay? So okay ito, pero in between the items dapat may mga spaces. May pondo naman ang ating school para dyan, kaya wag mo na lang noon siguro sa ibang school nagko-collect sila para sa test items, pero sa panahon ngayon, meron ng mga duplicating machines sa mga eskwelahan and they could actually do that. Okay? Some more reminders, begin writing items well ahead of time. Tama yan, para mas ma-revise mo. Match items to intended outcomes. Meron kasi tayo tinatawag na test bank. Okay? So, yung mga teachers, may test bank sila. Like, for example, they have 150 items sa periodic test. Kukuha nilang sila doon para sa kanilang periodic test na 50 items lang naman. So, they could choose from these items in their test bank. Okay? Be sure that the problem posed is clear and ambiguous. Use good grammar, punctuation, and spelling consistently. Again, we are establishing face validity and content validity in our test items. Minimize the time required to read each item. Huwag masyadong mahaba, okay? Kasi dapat pantay-pantay yung mga time na inaalat ng bata doon sa mga items. Avoid trick items. The ideal question will be answered by 60 to 65% of the tested population. We'll talk about that when we go to item analysis. That's topic 4. And have your questions peer-reviewed. Okay? In many cases, ang mga teachers nagsisharean yan ng kanilang test question. So, hati sila, o kunwari, ikaw muna sa first periodic, ako na sa second periodic, mga ganun bagay. Ensure that the directions are clear. Huwag ligoy-ligoy. Make sure that the directions are understandable and they are clear. Present the student with a diagram of equipment and ask for application analysis or evaluation. Present actual quotations taken from newspapers or other published sources in cases na kailangan mong gumamit ng mga ganyan. Okay? So, there are other reminders here, but all these are in your module, so you may want to read them there. Okay? Pero ang una nating dapat intindihin ay yung 10 na diniscuss ko kanina. Okay? So, that's the end of my discussion in multiple choice items. And in the next video, I will be explaining to you naman what are the rules to follow when you're writing short answer and completion type of tests. Okay? So thank you very much for listening and have a nice day.